Hello? Can you guys hear me now? The audio there now? Let me check it out on my own thing here. Hello? Can you guys hear me now? All right, yeah, it looks like I'm good. All right, sorry about that, people. So I'm Greg from Greg's Tutoring NYC. Let me restate what I said then, unless you guys understand lip reading. And I'll just put a pointer in the beginning to skip a minute or two in. SHSAT registration's over, although it's been extended. They're saying that if you register now, you'll get a later date. I don't know really what it means. Tickets are still forthcoming, even though the SHSAT's in about 6 days. On top of that, my schools is kind of overloaded because high school registration is now opened. So things are kind of whack. Yeah, Cassie, we're going to go over those questions today. While I'm talking, if you want to pop out maybe what you thought the problems were that you had with them, so that when I just go over them, we're going to do that. I'm going to go about 45 minutes to an hour today. If I feel really good, we'll maybe pump to an hour and a half. Let's see how it goes. What I'm trying to do in these sessions is really rip the stuff apart. Okay. Um, I'm in ninth grade. Do you know when I'll get my ticket? Nobody knows when anybody's getting their tickets. This is really not good. And the DOE might do some fast changes at the end of this. Pretty sure they're not going to change the date at this point, but they might change up some of the details, even though we don't know the details. So we're kind of stuck in this spiraling cyclone of nonsense, if you will. All right. The best I can tell you is that ninth grade is going to be happening at a DOE location. Okay. That's about the extent of it. Eighth graders are definitely taking it in their own middle schools, at least eighth graders who are in public schools. If you're in a charter school or private school or something, you're probably going to be taking it with the SHSAT Niners. And they haven't released those details yet. So I don't even know if you take it at your own middle school if you're in eighth grade, whether there's going to be a morning session, an afternoon session, or just one session. I know some of the principals are annoyed about the way this is going down as well. So um, it's kind of confusing. Any other general questions before we start up? All right. So we're in part 12 or something now. I covered all the ELA. The approach I'm taking with this time through, I've done hundreds of hours of videos for you guys, but this time I really want to rip the problems to pieces, just to really get that super ump out of it, so that there's a series of videos all together that does thing. I normally just do videos as it pops in my mind and stuff like that, but this one I want to focus and really make sure we're turning over every stone on a lot of these topics, especially the ELA. Um, I think there was one or two, or I only went over one or two passages, and it was for 2 hours each or whatever. That's a long time. If you have a dry and boring passage to rip it apart, and then spend an hour and a half and 2 hours on a long dry, it just gets gets long and boring. Um, but on the same note, it's the details that you guys need to get through for it to all be ripped to shreds or whatever. All right. Please like. Uh, I work for coins, so in this case, it's the likes. Actually, I have a donate page on my website too, GregsTutoringNYC. If anybody wants to throw me some real coin, this does take a lot of my time, and um, I need to put food on my own table as well. So I didn't do one of these for a few days because I was busy, and I'll just fill in the blanks as we go along. Okay, all right. So why don't we try to jump right into some of this? Um, let's see. Cassie said, "What were the two questions?" Let me go back to that screen. 63, which is the first one here, and 65, which is the one over there. Okay, yeah. By the way, these are kind of classic problems in a way. So let's just start at the directions. Salvage problem, that's no brainer. Select the best answer. In the in Even in the ELA, there really isn't the best answer. It's just select the answer. There's really only one choice here, guys. Mark the letter of your answer on your answer sheet. So I would suggest, because you're going to have the left-hand side of a page and a right-hand side of a page, so in this case, it would be 63, 64, 65, and 66, 67, 68, and 69. I would not bubble sheet my bubble sheet until problem number 69, okay? So every time you turn a page is when you should be bubbling, or just seconds before that. That way you're not going back and forth to every single problem, and you're also not going to get your bubble sheet as dirty that way. On that same note, um, if you guys are doing a math problem, there's enough space on this page here to do all your doodling and calculations. And if let's say I solve this over here, there's no reason to erase this area right here. Just put a big X for it. They're not going to look at this. The only thing that gets scored is your bubble sheet. Okay? They will collect your test paper. So there's no point wasting time erasing something that's wrong over it. Just cross it out. Okay? Also, when you erase it, you're going to get your test paper dirtier and your hand, especially right here. And as you write, as you have your hand on top of the paper, and then when you move it to your bubble sheet, you're going to get it dirty. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and you have all the little eraser garbage all over the place. So try to avoid erasing, and you should mostly have this Sadatler erasers. I think that's how to spell it. I'm not sure, but it's the white eraser that's a rectangular prism shape, and sometimes there's a little paper thing around it to keep it clean. Okay, so I would focus on those. If you don't get that brand, it's okay, but don't get the super cheap white erasers, and don't bring a pink eraser with you. They're just pains in the necks. All right. Okay, so 63. Mr. Jones has 550 goats, which is 10% more than Mr. King. How many more goats does Mr. Jones have than Mr. King? All right. Let me just make sure that's showing you guys' screens, all right? That's good. But let me make sure we're live. Yeah, that's good. So what we want to do is map the English into math. So it's telling us Mr. Jones, I'll put squiggly on here, Mr. Jones is 10% more than King, okay? So let's just focus on that for a second. Forget the goats for a minute. Jones is, this is means equals, 10% more of King, right? I think you can all follow that. Okay, if he's 10% more, if he was equal to King, this is the same as saying Jones is equal to 100% of King, right? And any percent, if I have X percent, oops, if I have X percent, this means X over 100. So this here must mean 100 over 100, which is the same as 1. That's why it's equal to this. Okay? They're congruent. They're the same thing. Okay? So if we go back to the original problem, this here, if Jones is 10% more, then Jones is 110% of King. Okay? This is the clincher here, 110%. All right? And then for that point, we just can fill in the numbers. So we can get 550 is 110% of King. Okay? So to get king by itself, now we're just down to regular algebra. So we're going to multiply this by 100 over 110, and this side by 100 over 110. So this cancels, that cancels, and then we have this. 110 goes into 555 times. Okay, so then we get this ends up being 500 equals king. Okay, and then it doesn't ask us how much does Mr. King has. It says how many more does Jones have. So now it's just 550 minus 500. And that gives us the 50. All right, Cassie, are you good with that? Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about any part of that? This is maybe about 4 pieces to here that you kind of had to connect the dots. The first was realizing, mapping the words to the English, which was here. I'll make that like step number 1. The second was understanding what the percent actually meant. 10% more means it's 110%. Okay? And then the third was putting in the numbers. And then the fourth part was actually doing the algebra. And then the fifth part was doing the more part here. All right? Does anybody else have any questions about that part? Welcome for anybody joining in right now. If anybody's catching on this a replay, you can certainly pause the videos as we're doing it. And whether you're on the replay or not, please like this. All right, so nobody seems to have any questions. And as I'm doing these, if you want to guess the answers, you can certainly do that as well. Okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so what you need to do is, because there's so many steps to this, and I think you would agree that the English really wasn't that deep. You have to really rip it apart at this level and really think it through, and that's what makes this challenging. All right. I don't know which part kind of got you. It may have been the 110%, I'm guessing. The rest you may have been able to figure out through sweating it through. Remember, guys, the SHSAT has 114 questions, and you have 3 hours to do this. That comes down to about, I don't remember the exact calculation, but it's like 1.3 minutes per question. Okay, and what you need to do after that, that's just 114 divided by the time, right? What you need to consider is a few things. Bubble sheet time. Okay, at least 1 bathroom break time. Okay, and passage reading. So it means you have less than 1.3 minutes. I like to think you have about 1 minute per question. Now, there are some questions that you can answer in 10, 20, 30 seconds. So theoretically, you gain half a minute to a minute on some of those. So that when you finally run into a hard question, then you know what to do with that. You can spend a little extra time on some of those. But if you're going to spend 15 minutes on a question, don't. If you're going to spend 10 minutes on a question, don't. If you're even going to spend 5 minutes on a question, don't. Okay? You're better off skipping the question, right? If you can answer 4 other questions in a minute, that's say 5 minutes. So you can spend 5 minutes on a question when you could be answering 5 questions altogether in that same time period. All right? So you guys have to be careful about that. No, it's less than 90. Do the division. I won't need to go to the bathroom, but the ELA passes will take me longer. Well, I agree there's a lot of cases where you don't need to be, but here's the thing. This is psych out day where the test is real, and that might be the day that your brain's telling you to go to the bathroom. And I don't want to get gory or you know, inappropriate talk or whatever, but a suggestion I have for everybody is go to the bathroom as soon as you get into the school. Now, the school's job is to make you guys get into your rooms wherever they're supposed to be. Just tell them, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm not going to my room. I'm going to the bathroom. And hopefully they let you do it, even if it means that. Because remember, too, you're not going to walk right in and start taking the test. There's going to be about 45 minutes, the same as when you take a state test or a Regents, where the proctor is going to lead you through a bunch of stuff like, this is how you take the test, and this is how much time you have, and is your name correct, and all this kind of stuff like that. So, all right. So even though the SHSAT for most of you are going to be 3 hours, you could end up being there for 4 or 5 hours. So I would say if you need to go to the bathroom, don't do it in the first half of the test, because you don't want to end up going to the bathroom, say, 3 times while the test is actually happening. All right. So if you either plan to do it past the midpoint or force yourself to wait, then that's okay. But here's what the problem is. Let's say you're 2 hours, you're 2 hours and 15 minutes into the test, and you really have to go to the bathroom. You're starting to do the pee-pee dance, right? You got no choice. All right? You need to go to the bathroom. And if you have to go to the bathroom, don't run. Because the worst thing that happens, you'll fall, crack your head, twist your ankle, and all that other kind of stuff like that. It doesn't mean to walk slow, but, so this is just some of the reality of all this, right? So because you have to weigh the pee-pee dance versus I'm not going to the bathroom, that kind of a thing. So just kind of plan it out. Theoretically, you have the 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, and hopefully the bathroom's on the same floor and all this other stuff. Most of you are going to take it at your actual school, so you're familiar with that. All right? And that's just one nuance. Really don't think about it. All right? So that's 63. 64. If 2y minus y over 2x equals, so this is our unknown. We're trying to solve for that. So normally we would call this the x, but there's already x and a y in here. And x is not equal to 0. So for the most part, you guys, when they put stuff like this, you can ignore this in many cases. It just means because when you have a fraction, if you have something over 0, that's undefined behavior. There's no answer to that. That's infinity, basically. So it's saying that this is true so long as we don't have this one special case where it makes no sense, okay? So often they add that into it. And some more harder problems, or some problems that are more involved, you actually have to make note of that, because that might interfere with the solution set that you're going to come up with, all right? So they're trying to ask what is in here. In other words, what solve for x is basically. This case z. Let's just call it z or something like that. We're going to try to solve for z. In this case, they're just calling it empty box. Okay. So there's a few ways to do this. This basically comes down to a common denominator. So this is 2x, this is 2x, that's x. So if I multiply this by 2 and this by 2, right, I'm going to get 4y over 2x. So now I have 4y there's a minus sign here, minus y. So I end up getting 3y, and the denominators are all 2x. All right? And the answer would be G then. So the answer, this is weird because it's symbolic answer. Okay? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Sometimes what they would do is they will put this in another form. Just to be silly, they could put 9y over 3 or something like that, because that's still the same as 3y. All right? So just be careful of what the forms are, because sometimes we can solve things completely. This was a trivial example, but there's other algebra where they'll give you, like, the answer will be the step just before the last step, just to mess with you guys. So sometimes if let's say it was like the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, okay? They might write this as x equals, what's that going to be? Y minus b over m. They might write it in that form. These are equivalents. These are both equivalent. So you have to realize that sometimes they're going to put the answer like that. In this case, it was pretty straightforward though. All right, everybody good with that? Okay, 65. Was this the other one you pointed out, Cassie? Let me try to get this all on the screen at once. Okay, so what I like to do, so there's 3 steps here to me personally. There's A, which is the illustration. There's B, which is the words. And then there's C, which is solving it. Okay? So we have a whole bunch of stuff going on here. All right? Okay, good. All right, so what I like to do is I'm just going to look at the illustration first. I don't care what the words say, and I also don't care if I'm going to waste a little time, despite that we only have a minute. So I see a circle, I see a square, or what looks like a square, I'm not sure yet, and I see a shaded area. I see 90 degrees here, okay? It looks, this is my observation, it looks like this might be 1/4 of the circle, okay? I could be wrong. What I'm just trying to do is understand what is in this illustration that they're giving to me. And this could be geometry. It could be they could give me a pie chart. They could give me a histogram. They can give me a table. There's lots of stuff here they can give me. It may have a legend. I'm looking to see if there's a keyword on the side with a legend and something in there. I'm looking to see if there's a title of the illustration. I'm looking to see if there's some fine print with a caption. Okay, and I do this too in the ELA section as well, just so I'm understanding what the heck are they even throwing at me here. All right, so there's not much here, and I do notice that the S seems to be the center, and the square seems to be PQRS. Okay, and it's not really much there, and this is all happening in 2 seconds. I'm not wasting 10 minutes doing this analysis. Yeah, it depends on your thinking strategy. For most people, the general rule of thumb is take the easy test first. If it just looks too complicated, don't go there. And on that note, let me take a little sidebar again for 1 second. If there's 114 questions, and it takes 10 seconds each, that's 1140. Okay, if I divide that by 60 seconds to a minute, I end up getting 19 minutes at 10 seconds per question. I'm wasting 19 full minutes just deciding whether to do a problem or not. So when you guys go to look at a problem, don't even read it. If you know you're not good on stuff like this, just skip something like 65. Okay? Just completely skip it. There's geometry, there's a lot of words, there's some involved answers. Just skip it. Don't take the 10 seconds. Even if you can solve it, it's worth skipping it. And only come back to it when you can. Now, there is another alternate strategy. I have a student who likes to work with the hard problems first. So if he sees a simple problem like 64, he'll do that obviously too. But he likes to take the perspective that when he gets too tired, he can't solve the hard problems anymore. But when he's not too tired, he can. So for him, it makes sense to solve the hard problems. So it depends on each student. I would have to crawl on you guys' brains to kind of really figure that out. But the general strategy is you're trying to get as many points as possible, especially on the SHSAT because there's a scaled score. So if like you may only getting if your current number of correct solved problems is like 40, they might be worth 4 points each. But when you start getting 44 correct, they might be worth 10 points each. All right? So the strategy is to try to get as many questions answered as possible before the clock runs out on you, right? So There's also another consideration here too, which is that 65 might be a field question, and we don't know. So should you spend time on a quote hard problem when it may not even count? And it's going to make you tired, and it's going to psychologically stop blowing your mind away and all that other stuff. So for most students, taking the easy test first makes sense, okay? All right, so with that in mind, so we took a couple of sidebars right here. So let's actually now go look at the words. We're going to take it a sentence at a time, okay? We're going to get to the end of a sentence and say, do we understand this? And we're going to go even more atomic than that. We're going to break it down the sentence by phrases. We're going to read mainly up to a comma and say, do I understand what's going on here? And then we're going to build up. As we get to each new phrase, we're going to incrementally add to what we know. And then when we get to each sentence, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to build up the next sentence, each phrase, and then build up and build up and build up, okay? And we already have a slight heads up because we analyzed the geometry already, okay? So in the figure above, PQRS is a square. Cool. That verifies it's a square, okay, because it tells us. Point S is the center, so that verifies that too, okay? And point P and R are on the circle. So P and R is right here, okay? So I'm going to stop right there, dead stop, make sure I understand what's okay. Do I know what's going on so far? Okay, does that even make sense? Does it make sense that there's a square overlapping a circle like this? Yeah, it does. Okay, why did they point out that this and this was on the circle? What does that mean? Oh, wait a second. This is a radius, and this is a radius. That's what that means. Okay? And then you might think to yourself, wait a second. This square, right, is on here too. And this confirms now that we piece this together. And we only read half of the problem so far. This is your thought process. You're trying to use what you know to go through it. This is 90 degrees, so it confirms that the shaded area was a quarter of the circle. All right? If it turns out it wasn't, you would just cross that out. It's not true. But in this case, it is true. Okay? So maybe that doesn't matter, or maybe it doesn't. In fact, we're focusing on this right here, the shaded area. They may ask for this part right here. We don't know that yet, all right? So let me kind of unclutter this a little bit, just to see where we're going with some of this. But it's worth, I'll keep that's the radius and that's the radius. Okay, so we're ripping it apart and we're building it back together. So if the area of the square is 4, so I'm going to stop right there. It's 4 centimeters. The area of the square equals 4 centimeters. Okay, so that means the side is equal to 2 centimeters, right? Because it's the side squared. That's the formula for the area, right? So if side squared equals 4, then if I take the square root of both sides, I get S equals 2, right? So that means then R is 2. That means PS is 2, and it means RS is 2. Okay? Because it's the same radius. What is the area in square centimeters of the shaded part of the circle? Well, I can't get the shaded part of the circle until I get the whole circle. All right? So let me get rid of that for a second. So the area of a circle equals pi r squared, right? So we know what r is. So that's equal to pi times 2 squared, or that's equal to 4 pi. Okay? All right, since this is 90, and by the way, I didn't really say how I knew it was a quarter of the circle. if it's 90 degrees out of 360, then that's equal to 1/4, right? There's 90 degrees out of the whole circle here, right? So we're only getting this part here, 90 degrees out of 360. So what we're going to do now is the area of the shaded part equals 4 pi times 1/4. The 4's cancel, and we end up with just pi. So I'm hoping one of the answers here is pi, and it's B. 65 is B. There we go, yeah. Let me just shrink this down one more time so we can get the answer choices on the screen as well. All right. So enough kids are going to end up saying 4 pi because that's the whole circle, and getting so lost in the problem that they forget it. So it's not 4 pi. The answer is B here. Okay. Also, by the way, you guys should always circle the right answer on your test booklet, just in case your bubble sheet gets screwed up. All right. So Cassie or anybody else, are you guys good with this explanation? Hello, I see a whole bunch of people now in here. Please ask questions as I'm going along. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to help you guys out here. So is that good, Cassie? Say hello. This number 65 is a classic kind of SHSAT example. However, you can't game this. Don't even think of gaming it. Because what they're going to do is they're always going to twist something here, or they're going to twist something in the illustration. So what you're trying to do is get the concepts, understand the topics, understand how to map the English to the math, understand your test taking skills, right? And as you get used to these, again, you have to do this in a minute. That's the way it goes. All right. This one, again, just like 63 had 5 steps to it, this also had about 5 steps. So that's always the gotcha with these things. There's too many steps. All right. And it's just taking what you know and just inching along and inching along. But what's crucial is understanding the figure, understanding the words, doing the mapping, and then do your math once you've done that. There's lots of room for error here. So, like on 64, you can feed the answer back into the question. You can also feed it back in for 63, but it's hard to feed it back in for 65 because it's a partial thing and it's involving pi and stuff like that. So it gets a little uglier. All right. Anyway, this meandering where different math topics are ricocheting off each other, this is classic SHSAT. Classic SHSAT. All right. Any more questions about that? I'm taking the 9th grade version. Do you think it will be much harder than question 65? Yeah. It's not going to be double harder though. All right. And there's always questions like, oh, they didn't give one here, did they? The grid-in section often has there's always the questions where you have something like this and some weird shape and then something off over here and whatever, and they ask like, what's this angle here? There's always those weird problems like that. Some of those can be tough, but there are often a couple of rules you have to follow for those. We might even pass one of those today. I'm not sure what the problems are here right now. So, but it's not going to be double as hard. By the way, 2 points to note. First of all, y'all should know that the back of the SHSAT handbook has some examples for SHSAT 9. Also, the back of the handbook has extra grid-in examples. Some kids don't realize that. They just think it's all grade 9 stuff. There's actually additional grade 8 and grade 9 grid-in examples maybe 10 of them, I can't remember the exact count, in the back of the handbook, okay? All right, so let's bump this back up again. 66 is what I call a silver plate question. This is pretty much a giveaway. We have consecutive integers, so some of you don't know what this means. So first of all, you should know what an integer was. A consecutive integer just means 10 numbers that follow each other, like 1, 2, 3, or 9, 10, and 11, okay? There's variations of this because it could say consecutive even integers. In that case, it might be 10, 12, and 14. It just means they follow each other according to whatever the integer type is. Consecutive odd integers might be 3, 5, 7. All right? So that's what they're talking about there. So if there's a consecutive bunch of integers that begins with m and ends with n, and then what they do here is they just subtract them. So they're saying that the difference between n and m is 66. How many integers are in that list? Well, this is our classic. It could be like 3 minus 1. That's equal to 2. But we know this is 1, 2, 3. We know there's 3 numbers involved here, okay? Because the subtraction is the difference between them. The 3, though, is the number of integers. So all we have to do is bump this 66 up by 1 and we're done. So this theoretically is a 10-second problem. You read it, you solve it, you say, wait, can it be that simple? And then you go, yeah, it's that simple, it's H, okay? So you can gain a minute here because this is basically a no-brainer question, all right? On that note, because your mind's playing tricks on you on test day, make sure it really is a no-brainer question because it may actually be harder than it looks. I have a saying, the problem with the hard questions, they're hard, and the problem with the easy questions is they're easy. And then it's playing mind tricks with you guys, all right? So is everybody good on that one? 67. 67 is one of these questions that a lot of you are going to get wrong. It's also a silver plate question. But that's the reason why you're going to get it wrong. Just what I said, the problem with the easy questions, they're easy. And they're prone to get silly errors, which usually are not silly. It usually means there's something you haven't mastered in this that's causing you to get it. And I've noticed the pattern over the years between my students and just interacting with you guys and so on, or whatever, which is that if we just took 67 by us, I made I'm off by 1, all this kind of stuff like that. But if you look at it over a whole test, you can sometimes see a pattern. Or if you look at it over a group of tests, you're like, you know what? Every time there was a fraction problem, you got it wrong. Every time there was a division, you got it wrong. Every time there was a negative number, you got it wrong. Every time it said least to greatest, you did greatest to least. So those are not silly errors. They're something that you're able to control. All right. So it means there's something happening in your thought process or your attention to detail or all these kind of things like this. And attention to detail is super important. All right. So this is some of the stuff you guys need to worry about. So let's get rid of that because it's going to write right there. So when you're presented with a fraction, even if it's your own doing from a word problem, you have a couple choices to kind of duke out. It usually means there's more than one way to solve it. Okay, so you have to decide things like the distributive property. Am I going to distribute this out? Okay, do I do the 13 first? What happens to the 39? Do I play with the 3 first? So there's trade-offs to it all. It's hard to really say what it is. Some of it's your number sense about how you should do that. All right. I also like to say that the SHSAT normally doesn't give you hard numbers. You will never have a SHSAT answer that's like 1, 2, 3 or 2, 4, 5, 6 times 4, 5, 9, 3, 2. The SHSAT is never going to ask you this, okay? And even when you have a problem, something like you end up with 3/4 times 8, 6 times 3, 3/4 again times 10, 10, 6 or something. The way to solve this is not to do 3 times 8 times 3 times 10. It's to figure out what will cancel, okay? So this 3 goes into this 6 twice. This 3 goes into this 6 twice. This 4 goes into that 8 twice. Okay, this 2 goes into this 4 twice. So we trivialize this down to now it's 10 over 28. Okay, and then we can simplify that even further. So we're doing fast math. So the numbers on the SHSAT problems are always devised so that there's some strategy that you can get the answer rapidly. Okay, so why am I mentioning that here? Because part of that's there. What we can do is divide this 3 into the 39 and get 13 here. Okay, so that means basically we collapsed. We got rid of that. So let me rewrite it. So we have, just so it's clear what the next step is going to be. This is going to be 13 times x minus 3 plus 39 over 13. Okay, this still looks ugly, but we know rules like this, that a plus b over c is the same as a over c plus b over c, right? Is everybody cool with that? Right? So if I had like 1/6 plus 2/6, is that not equal to 3/6? So I can go forward this way. I can always go backwards that way too, right? So that's all that's happening here. So I'm mentioning this because this is 2 equations. This is 13 times x minus 3 over 13, right? Plus 39 over 13, right? This cancels out. This is 3. And we get x minus 3 plus 3. And we just end up with x. Poof. So 67 should be A. Does everybody see that? Just like that. All right? That's tricky because it almost looks like, whoa, right? There are other ways to solve this problem. They're messy and they take a long time to do. So if it was me, I would have come back to the original problem. Right? I would have seen this. I would have put 13 there. I would have seen this property and just canceled that out and made that 3 and then go like that. So this is a 4-step problem that I would have done in maybe about 10 seconds as well. So 67 is also about a 10-second problem when you think it through. Okay? You don't want to do it so fast and make a sloppy error. Okay? And you can double check it. You can rewrite it underneath itself. Just make sure, oh, is that really x? Is that really x? Right? And remember, it says simplify. That's all we're doing. So the answer can be symbolic. There's symbolic answers here. And again, they made it nice for us because they kept it in a good form. Okay, they could have written the answer before I did the crossouts. They could have made that whole thing the choice before I canceled out stuff. So they didn't choose to do that. Okay. This one's hard too because you brute force is a strategy sometimes, but you can't really brute force those into it. Right? Is everybody with me? Silence is in the room too strongly. Okay. And welcome again. I see there's other people here. So I'm Greg from Greg's Tutoring. Hello. Say hi. Please subscribe to the channel. There's more parts of this coming. I also have hundreds of other videos and hundreds of other hours that are distinctly SHSAT related. Okay, and if you didn't catch the other parts to this, uh, go into GregsTutoringNYC.com, and I have some links into there on the right hand side next to the SHSAT flyer. You'll see some parts of that. Okay, how we doing on time? We're about half an hour so far. Let me see here. No, we're about 47 minutes already. Wow. All right. Probably gonna go about 10 more minutes. So let's see how many other problems we can get done here. 67, 68. Okay, 68 is completely. Where's my cursor? Attention to detail. I'm sure you can all solve this if you have attention to detail. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each sentence at a time again, and we're going to view it. So jar 1 and jar 2 each contain half a cup of water. Okay, cool. So we have J1, we have J2. Okay, it's half. Okay. If a quarter of the water of jar 1, notice it doesn't say quarter cup. It just says quarter of. A quarter of, not a quarter cup, is poured from 1 into 2. How much water is now in 2? So it doesn't say it's a half minus a quarter, which would be equal to a quarter, which would mean this would be a half plus a quarter. It does not say that. Okay, is everybody cool with what I'm talking about here? It does not say that. It says a quarter of the water. So it means that if jar 1 has a half, it's a quarter of means multiplication of a half. And that's equal to an eighth. So it's an eighth we're going to add to this. So if this already has a half, this is going to be a half plus an eighth. Well, that means this is equal to 4/8 plus 1/8. And then the answer is 5/8. Does everybody see that? So this wasn't much of a hard problem, except it was the terminology and phraseology being used. It says a quarter cup. It didn't say a quarter cup of the water. It said a quarter of the water. So you have to give this super, super detailed look and really process these kind of things at a super deep level. Right? Everybody cool with that? Please like and please subscribe, guys. This takes a lot of my time. It's would appreciate it if you guys were doing that. It's going to help you in reverse as well. It helps the channel, and the more help we get, the more incentive I have to do stuff like this. All right. All right. Let's see what the next problem is. Okay, 69. Let me get rid of some of the clutter that I used to solve the other question with. All right. As usual, there's a couple ways to solve a lot of these. One way is to just take this 0.01. That's the same as 1 over 100, right? This is tenths. That's hundredths. So that's the same as that. Okay. So then it says it's between 1 over n in value they're talking about. Okay. if n is a whole number, then it's an integer. So it seems clear that this is 99 or less than 99, right? And that this is 101. Okay? It's just that simple. Okay? So what's the value of n? It would be d then. Okay? Yeah. Oreo's got it. Okay? There's another strategy, which is to just try each one of these. Okay, if n is 0, this can't work. Because we talked about the before, division by 0 is no good, so it can't be that. Okay? If n is 1, we have 1 over 1 and then 1 over 3. So, and this is 0.01, right? This is 0.33333. So, is it between there? No, so that's not true. Okay, if it's 2, we get 1/2, right? Which is 0.5 versus 0.01, and then 2 plus 2 is a quarter. So 0.25 is it between that? No, it's not. It's not between that. So first of all, out of the process of elimination, we got that. And the other is 1 over 99, and then 0.01, and then 1 over 101. So as you can see, this gets tedious, but if you did these divisions, you would see that 0.01 is between the two of those. And if you had extra time on the test, maybe that's a way to double check it, okay? I often like to say too, as you're solving a problem, try a totally alternate way to do it right there on the spot, so that maybe you don't even need to come back to problems, all right? By the way, as you're doing problems, like I said, always circle the answer and come and put a code next to here. It could be a check mark. Just make sure it's clear. Some of you like to use colored pencils for this. Some of you guys like to use codes. If it's a circle, you're good. If it's a square, you're something else. If it's a triangle, that means it's alert, like you're not sure. So you may have got the right answer, but you're kind of not sure. So use different codes. It could be shapes. It could be letters. N could be not sure. O could mean okay. X means I have no idea whatsoever. Just whatever your code is, stick with it, okay? And I want to throw this out there now too. Start practice, do a practice test with a mask on. Most likely, you guys are going to take the test on test day with a mask. So it's something you should know how to do. Some of you wear glasses; they might get fogged up. Depends on the story, right? All right, let me do 1 or 2 more problems, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, 70 isn't too bad either. So we're going to again take it a sentence at a time. When asked about a recent on a poll, 72% answered yes. Okay, so there's a poll, a whole bunch of people were answered yes. What about the people who answered no? If 56 people did not answer yes, so these are the no's, right? That question, what is the total number of people who were polled? Okay, so this is percent, this is exact counts. So how do we do that mapping back and forth? Well, 72% said yes, right? If we subtract that from 100, we get what? 28% said no, okay? And that turns out to be the 56 people. So 56 is, that means equals, 28% of x, all right? And then we solve for x, so we can get rid of the fraction by multiplying by 100 over 28 on both sides. Okay, this cancels. This goes into here twice, and we get 200 equals x. So the answer for 70 should be h. Yeah, it is. So everybody good with that? And let's do one more for good luck here. A museum has a room in the shape of a rectangle. So that's what I'm going to start out doing. I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay. The area of the floor is 960 square feet. So I have a length and a width. That means my length times my width equals 960. And I'm writing this stuff down. I'm actually solving the test. This is what I'm doing. And you should do the least amount possible in your head unless it's easy stuff. If it says it's like 12 times 10, don't bother writing it down. You know that's 120. If it's like 6/8, you know that's 3/4. So you don't necessarily need to write that stuff down. All right? But if it's relating to the problem, you're putting down the visual, right? You're putting down your formulas that you know. All the givens you're starting to put down. All right? Okay, in the scale drawing, 1 inch equals 20 feet, okay? So this is a ratio, 1 inch to 20 feet, okay? So what can we do with that? Nothing yet. It says if the length of the room is 2 inches, right? What is the width of the room in the scale? So this is going to be inches again here too. So they're trying to look for the width in inches, and if you notice, that's what all the answer choices are here. And if you weren't sure, go look, right? These are not grid-ins, so you're getting a little heads up, all right? If the length is 2 inches and the scale tells us 1 inch is 20 feet, this is our legend and our key here, then this must be equal to 40 feet, right? That's 40 feet. If the whole thing was 960, we're going to get 960 divided by 40. Okay, we can cross this out, right? And we get 24. Okay? Right? By the way, do you guys know how to divide by 4 real quick? You take a half of something, and then you take a half of it again. So if I tell you there's a number like 96, I can take half of it, and I get 48. And I take half of that again, and I get 24. Okay? So that's an easy way to do division by 4. And we crossed out the zeros here, because it was 40 into 960, so we got 24. So this means the width is equal to 24 feet, but we need to get it into inches. Well, what we can do is take that same conversion, that 1 inch was 20 feet, okay, and map it to how many inches is 24. So that basically means that x is equal to 24 over 20, okay, and that's equal to 1 and 4/20, or 1 1/5. So that should be A. All right. All right. I'm going to stop here. Do you guys have any general questions or questions about anything we just talked about? All right. General questions about the SHSAT. Because there's always guys asking different stuff about things like that. Any general questions? If not, I'll end this. Again, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Please subscribe because there's going to be more. Please like. Smash the like button. Nobody has questions? Somebody's got to have some general questions. So SHSAT's in 6 days. You guys should be kind of honing your strategy. How are you going to go through the sections on test day? You're probably worrying about your ticket. There's nothing you can do about that now. Just start preparing your go bag. It's at your middle schools for most of you, so that's going to be cooler. The other ones who don't, just plan. You're probably going to be getting up that early that morning. Make sure you have a good breakfast, dressed in layers. Make sure you have pencils, an eraser. Bring a watch with you. If you're the kind of kid who likes to use a highlighter, have that. If you need any medicine or glasses, bring those, right? All the stuff you need to have. All right. What should I study if I'm in grade 9? Everything you've already been studying. The test is a little harder, but remember that SHSAT 9 includes everything in SHSAT 8. So it's a superset of SHSAT 8. In fact, it's my understanding that some of the same questions are the same on both tests. So let's say for argument's sake, I don't know the exact percentage. Let's say that 75% of SHSAT 9 is going to be some of the same questions that might be on SHSAT 8. Realizing that there's not just one SHSAT 8. There's many forms given out every year. So there's not just one test for SHSAT 8 and one test for SHSAT 9. They give out different tests at different locations and stuff like that. You should also be looking at a topic list. Let me pop a topic list out there quick for you guys. Just out of the way for a second. So that's some math topics. There's a PDF version of that too, which is this. The next link is about some stuff about formulas, math formulas. And here's a PDF about that as well. Let's see what else we got here going on. Some geometry stuff. Okay. Also, since you're on SHSAT 9, these might help you here. 1 second. That has a whole bunch of links to SHSAT 9 math kind of level stuff. That last link. All right. And it's hard to say because the DOE does not release an exact list, so it's kind of a slippery thing. But the SHSAT 9 math will add on a little more geometry, a little more trigonometry, a little more formulas. It doesn't go too much deeper into it. The ELA might be slightly harder, although some people claim it's exactly the same ELA. It just seems to be a difference in the math. I've never gotten to the bottom of something like that. All right. Anyway, that should be helpful with the topics and so on or whatever. Anybody else have any other questions? Could be about anything. It doesn't have to be at the math. It could be at scoring, what happens on test day, whatever the case may be. All right. I guess not. All right, people. Peace out. Have a great day. It's important to keep yourself calm. This is a methodical, incremental thing that you guys should be going through. And the freaking out's not going to help you. So use your adrenaline and your anxiety in your favor to make it fun and exciting, and use that to energize yourself. All right, guys. Best of luck and best of skill. And hopefully I can get another of these out tomorrow, and we'll continue on with question 76 or whatever it was. All right, guys. Peace out.